So we had a false out. So we're not done.
So we will be leaving shortly,
Yes.
but make sure if you're in the vicinity and you can come out tomorrow to Huntsville. If you can't, you can listen to us. But we're going to finish tonight's show. I'm going to have a chat with Darin Van Tassell from South Georgia Tormenta once he gets settled.
All right. So I'm going to swap out. I'll go this way. Darin will come in this way. So we'll do the old-fashioned tag out. And you
I figure since you talked to John yesterday at halftime, you're going to get stuck with me this time.
It's way better, Jason.
I wasn't going to say that, but, I figure this is something that we've started to do with our Atlanta United broadcasts where we're going to have Garth Lagerway a lot of times in our middle pregame segment. And it's not about the game. It's about the big picture of soccer. So we've talked about this online and offline over the years. And I'd love to kind of pick your brain about where things stand right now with just first off, your experience here in Huntsville with the Blast-Off battle. How has it been for the club?
Well, we should just start there. What an amazing time we've had in Huntsville. What a great soccer town, by the way. If there's soccer fans in the audience, I want to salute everybody that's here. This is a fun, it would be a nice tradition to begin. A lot of fun teams in the South who can get together this time of year, some interleague sorts of things. And I think it says a lot about where we are. Listen, we are at unprecedented time at the growth of our game. We've come on the shoulders of giants before us, but the run up to what's going on in the various leagues, we have more pro teams than ever. More soccer is good. And on top of that, we have this run up to the most amazing international event ever. My background's in the Olympics. I spent a 3-time Olympian in a different sport, but to watch the growth of the game, it's clearly the biggest game in the world. I'm not so certain it's not the biggest anything in the world. And as we grow and watch and we get the world's landscape to us, a lot of our pro divisions, we're getting our houses in order. A lot of our pre-professional leagues, we're getting our houses in order. And what's amazing is we're really climbing on the backs of those youth soccer academies that came way before all of us. Think about where we were last time. In 94, last time we had a World Cup in this country.
Oh, wow.
We had there was no MLS.
No MLS.
There was no USL.
There were maybe at a second division level, I think that season, 7 or 8 teams. There was a USISL that was semi-pro at that point that had maybe 40 teams or so. But you had maybe, in terms of players making a living,
that's right.
You probably had about 100.
Well, think about this. There's even a greater barometer. It was barely played in high schools throughout the U.S.
Yeah.
The NCAA was barely touching it in those days.
You didn't have women's SEC soccer in 1994.
No. So anyway, there's a lot of ways to judge a barometer. And quite frankly, we probably had very few live podcasts at breweries.
I don't think they existed in 1994.
In those days. And now we're clamoring to get here. And anyway, kudos to you guys. You guys are some of the best journalists in the country doing this. Certainly one of the best in the South. And we salute everybody involved.
I think what you said earlier has kind of always been our motto as well. I mean, yeah, I work for Atlanta United. I'm calling the MLS games. But for me, it's just as important to get out and call a high school game last night in Douglasville. It's just as important to come here and be part of this because it all benefits the game.
Kudos to you guys because very few people will go from MLS to high school. But it's one of the characteristics that I think the show at Soccer Down here is have. It says a lot about your crew.
Yep.
Quite frankly. And listen, I think from a fan standpoint, that's what we can gravitate towards. That's who we want to get connected. I've said many times, listen, I own a pro team. We're building stadiums. We're spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
But the business of soccer is not the business, and the business of sport it's the experience and memory making. And this is how you do it. You do it in smaller settings. You do it where people can get close, where they can get connected. We're thirsty for connection. Yep. And I think that's what our game does when we're at our best.
Yeah, it's essential because we're at a point where this is the biggest accelerating period that we're probably going to have in our lifetimes for this game.
Once in a lifetime runway we're on.
Because, I mean, we've got the Copa America coming to Atlanta this summer. You've got Argentina coming to open the tournament. You've got the U.S. men's national team. Club World Cup probably in 2025. 8 World Cup games, including a semifinal at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and that's going to affect Huntsville and Statesboro and Chattanooga and the whole region. And then more than likely a Women's World Cup in 2027.
I think it's coming. And listen, don't miss out. Let our fans don't miss out on how big that tournament is this summer.
Yeah.
The World Cup is going to overshadow everything, but the one this summer is pretty darn legit.
It's the next biggest along with the Euros, and they're going to be going on concurrently. We're just in a really lucky time. And you mentioned the landscape, and it's kind of a fascinating time to have this conversation because I'm with you. And I was talking to people earlier. I feel like we're in a really good spot right now where there's a lot of different pathways, whether you're a player, whether you're an up-and-coming coach, whether you're an owner, an administrator. There's a lot of different pathways to find your spot. And I think clubs and players and coaches are finding those opportunities better than ever before.
Well, listen, I can tell you, we've signed a lot of players this year. We've all of a sudden been at this a little bit. You know, in this country, you don't have to be at it more than 5 or 6 years, and you have veteran status.
This is true.
Because you stayed alive. But the number of players, not just in our country, the talent pool's deep, but the number of players around the world who are coming to our shores who want to play, it says a lot. Listen, I can't go without saying one other piece, too. Obviously, I'm in the USL, very proud member of that, founding member of League One. It's a great fit for us. But the USL Super League that we made public a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Listen, the Division I status, we have about 100 professional men's teams in the United States. Until the Division I status 2 weeks ago, we only had 12.
Yeah.
Now we have 20. We have a long ways to go, but what synergy seems to be moving. There's some nice player association agreements in place for pay. I'm really proud of to be a part of that movement.
The women's game is a huge part of it. I think it's what makes our soccer world a little unique when we're talking the sporting landscape in the U.S. You guys have had great success on the women's side. I think MLS, different clubs have found different pathways to do it, and that's going to continue to grow. How important is the women's team to Tormenta's overall success?
Well, it's huge. We have 2 first teams. We have our men's team and our women's side. Both won titles in 2022. And in fact, Noah, are you with me? I think Sydney Martinez tonight saved a goal. She's got called up for the Puerto Rican national team.
Oh, wow.
Saved a goal, and Puerto Rico is moving on. And that just happened.
So they qualified into the Women's Gold Cup.
And so that just happened as we were walking in the door.
That's awesome.
And so it's important enough to us that when our front office walks in, we knew it. We're going to publicize it. Those are the small little stories that we want to tell. Having a men and a women's team is critical to our success. Every club's got to do it differently. Yeah. But that's a big part of us.
Yeah, I think it's a critical part to the overall growth. And I think it's going to be very important for an Atlanta United to have an impact on that side of it. Chattanooga does already with WPSL. We saw Athens United come in as well in USL League 2 and USLW League. It's such an important part. The other part of it that is noted, and I've noticed here in the Southeast, is maybe online the Soccer Wars with a Z folks don't like clubs interacting the way that we do down here. But it seems like you've always been someone willing to talk to Atlanta United, learn from them, teach them as well. Same with Huntsville. Same with Chattanooga. All in different leagues, various leagues over the years. But there's always been a healthy respect and cooperation, right?
I don't know how else to do it. So
exactly.
It's wasted energy for me to sort of deal in the negative vampire draining kind of stuff.
Yes.
But that's maybe just my own personality. I don't see those things as threats to what we're doing as a club. We need to play. We need to get better. We play in our league. We're beyond thrilled and proud to be in our league, but we're going to find where the best teams are for us at any time to play. And every time we're going to suit up, we're going to go try to smash each other.
Yep.
But in between those moments, whether there are rivals in our league, different leagues, it seems to me to be rather irrelevant. We all have to be on the same team. We all have to be pursuing the same goal. Now, if someone stops pursuing those same goals, then I'm going to stop probably losing my patience.
Absolutely.
For that.
Yeah.
But the goal has got to be to grow the game.
Yep.
And when that's happening, we're going to all be really, really good. I just think as we're growing each of our clubs, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, it's essential to me. Another area that you guys are growing this year that I was really excited to see, something that John and I have had opportunities to interact with Atlanta United, is a unified team working with Special Olympics. Tell me about how that partnership came about.
So when we think about our club, we've got a League One, a women's side. We've got a thriving academy, and we're so honored now to also have a Tormenta unified team. I think some of the leaders in this have been in the USL. In our case, so it's Omaha and Colorado Springs. Forward Madison, Atlanta United's done a good job here. And so because it's Special Olympics, because Special Olympics is really state-driven, both us and Atlanta United will be the only two unified soccer teams in the state. We're going to roster everybody. We're going to sign contracts. We're going to have uniforms, names on the back. They're going to be on our website. It's going to be no different from an attention on the front office standpoint. But our entire season consists of 2 games.
Yep.
It's a home and away against Greenville, our most trusted and hated rivals. And yet we are completely tied at the hip when we're not playing. Our franchises work closely together, and it mattered a lot to us, both clubs, to get this thing going. And here we're going to be off and running this summer.
You mentioned that with Greenville. It kind of goes back to that healthy respect that we have across leagues. You guys have that with Greenville in the same league. Those games are heated. Those games have a lot of meaning to it, but you guys cooperate where you can in other areas.
We have to, only because, listen, on Saturdays they need to lose. But every other time, Tormenta can't be our best if Greenville's not at their best. And the 100%. Same is true for almost every other club around the country. If we're not all doing well, we just can't do it. It's too early for this game. Perhaps baseball and the NFL and the NBA can do it. We will get to that spot.
Yeah.
But right now, that really, really matters. And quite frankly, it's just a lot more fun.
When you look at the landscape of where things are today, as we go into 2024, we're going to have 2 D1 women's leagues playing in 2024. We have a pretty healthy pyramid from top to Division 3. We have a thriving semi-pro, grassroots, Division 4, whatever you want to call it. Teams popping up everywhere. What is the next thing that U.S. soccer needs to continue to grow? What is it to you?
Well, I think U.S. soccer, I think they're going to have to figure out the big challenge on their hand right now with the Open Cup.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm in the middle of all those conversations. Jason, I just don't know how it's going to go. I just left meetings even Thursday about them. So as U.S. soccer thinks about that, I think this is a moment it's really got to decide what role it has as FIFA's representative in our country.
Yep.
Then it's going to have on growing the game. And it's probably never been met with the challenge that it has at the moment. I mean, we have a century-old tournament that we all love dearly, and we love the nostalgia about it, bumping into the business side of it for some of us. We've got to watch that one. And I think how U.S. soccer deals with this is going to offer us a giant window into how it's going to do everything else. That being said, listen, as we grow the game, we know how we grow the game. We're going fast on the pro side. It makes no sense to me. And now the NCAA that we're trying to figure out what they're doing. How can we not have men's soccer in the SEC? So those are some missing components to grow. More high schools, better middle schools. We've always been strong at the academies. I mean, you name me another sport in our country where the high schools and middle schools are not as good as some of the academies outside of that. But we'll fix those things. And I think the momentum builds and grows, everybody's got to have a place to play. And the best folks don't always have to be just playing at the top levels.
Right.
More people playing soccer, the better. And this is one I feel pretty strongly about.
How important is it in your mind that U.S. Soccer's bringing their headquarters to our collective backyards?
Well, I love this. I love the sign of that. I selfishly love being in Georgia, right here in the South. I mean, what a testament. You guys started telling the world before most others how important this game was in this part of the U.S., and clearly U.S. soccer either was listening or discovered it on their own, just how powerful it was. As you know, my background's in baseball. I was working for, instead of FIFA, the International Baseball Federation for 20 some odd years, and coached the Olympics and traveled. Here's what I discovered while watching my son play elite soccer, was that on Saturdays, the academy scene was so strong in the state of Georgia, the sports pages were missing it. Yeah. Well, they're not missing it now. And clearly U.S. soccer has picked up on all of that. And what a hotbed where our future talent comes from. And it's an honor to have them in the state.
We're in a really lucky spot right now with where this game is. You've been a big part of growing this in Georgia, in the Southeast, being an example for a number of other teams. Thank you for always being willing to interact with us on SDH. It's been an honor for us. It's been my pleasure. We're getting a lot of specific soccer stadiums built. And listen, while we're here in Huntsville, I got to give a massive shout out. What an impressive facility it was to take a baseball stadium, turn it into a soccer specific one with the class and the detail and that live, work, eat, play atmosphere. We're building something similar in the Statesboro, but it's a real kudos to the mayor and all the good folks of Huntsville, because that's a top-notch place. They should be really proud of it. It feels like the venue control and monetization is really the biggest thing that is starting to propel the game in this area. That's right. And listen, it's not always going to be cold like it was today and rainy like it was last night. What an amazing thing. We're playing in middle of February. So, the rest of the world should be so lucky. Thanks for taking the time for us tonight. Yeah, it's a great pleasure, Jason. Thanks. That'll do it for us. Soccer Down here from Yellow Hammer Brewing. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Remember, you can listen to the games tomorrow. SoccerDownHere.mixler.com. You can get all of our Soccer Down Here content wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts. You can get Soccer Down Here there. And if you're in Huntsville, get some tickets. Come out, $15 for both games tomorrow. 2 really high-level matches tomorrow starting at 11 o'clock local time. Mucha plata, y'all.